That wasn't my speech in my purse, it was theirs. I didn't say it out loud, of course. Not in a ballroom filled with crystal chandeliers and smiling strangers who thought they were watching a fairy tale. I said it to myself the way you do when you're trying to keep your hands steady and your face pleasant, even as your stomach tightens like a pulled ribbon. The Grand Oaks Hotel sat 15 miles outside town, the kind of place where the valet wore white gloves and the lobby smelled faintly of lilies and money. I arrived early because that's what I've always done, show up before I'm needed so nobody has to worry. At 67, I've learned that being dependable is a habit you don't break easily, even when the people you're doing it for have stopped seeing you as a person. My name is Evelyn Parker, and I was there for my granddaughter Chloe's wedding, wearing a pale blue dress I'd had hemmed just right and a strand of pearls that used to be my mother's. I carried a small clutch, the kind that snapped shut with a soft click, and inside it I had a card, a check, and the little speech I'd written the night before. 3 minutes of warm words about love and growing up and how proud I was. I'd practiced it quietly in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Chloe used to sit at 16, swinging her legs off a stool, asking if I thought she could pull off a big dream. Back then her smile had felt like sunlight. That morning the sunlight didn't reach me. The first hint came with the place card. I found it on a table near the entrance to the ballroom, tucked among hundreds of others in neat rows. Evelyn Parker. It read in elegant script, and underneath it, Table 19. I blinked, thinking it must be a mistake. Table 19 was near the service door, close enough to hear trays clatter and staff whisper. It wasn't about pride. It was about the message: you are background. You are useful, not important. I lifted my chin and turned, scanning the room for someone I knew, for a familiar face that might make me feel less like an extra in someone else's movie. That's when I saw Chloe and her mother Megan, near the dance floor, heads close together laughing. Then Chloe glanced my way and her smile changed, not disappearing, just sharpening at the edges. She waved like a hostess greeting a stranger. Before I could take a step toward her, a wedding planner hurried past me, phone in hand, an iPad balanced on her forearm. The screen lit up as she tapped it, and for half a second I saw a list, names and bullet points before she swiped away. I didn't mean to look, but I did. And one line, bolded, burned itself into my mind. Toast order. Keep Evelyn short. Another line sat beneath it like a punch wrapped in ribbon. If she gets emotional, switch mic. My breath caught so quick it almost didn't happen. In my clutch, my speech suddenly felt heavier, like it had turned into a stone. I stood there among the flowers and the satin and the polite music, smiling the way women my age learn to smile when we're hurt in public, soft, controlled, and invisible. And I realized I hadn't come to a wedding. I'd walked into a performance, and someone else had written my part. I kept smiling because that was the only thing in my control. The ballroom was filling fast now, a tide of perfume and polished shoes, of laughter that sounded like it had been practiced. Servers moved like clockwork with silver trays, and somewhere near the head table a string quartet kept the air sweet and harmless. I walked toward table 19 with my clutch tucked close to my ribs, as if holding it tighter could keep my heart from slipping out of place. My seat was exactly where the place card promised, near the service door, beside a tall stack of extra chairs and a rolling cart dressed with white linen. When I sat down I could feel cool air puffing in every time the door swung open, carrying the faint smell of dish soap and hot plates. A young couple at my table glanced at me politely, then turned back to their phones. Nobody asked who I was. Nobody needed to. I was the kind of guest you only notice when you want something. I smoothed my dress over my knees and reminded myself that I was there to honor a moment, not to chase approval. Still, when Chloe walked past with Megan on her arm, both of them shining in satin and confidence, my chest tightened anyway. Chloe paused just long enough to let her eyes flick down to my table number, then back up to my face. Her smile widened, bright and empty. "Grandma Evelyn," she said, drawing out my name like it was part of a joke. "You made it." "Great." Megan's gaze followed, measured and cool, like she was inspecting a purchase. "Evelyn," she said, and then she added, "this is such a big day for Chloe. Try not to take her focus, okay?" The words were soft, almost kind, and that is how she did it. She would never say anything that sounded cruel on paper. She would just say it where people could hear and still pretend it was advice. Chloe leaned closer, her voice dropping into something sugary. "We are keeping everything very streamlined," she said. "The planner is strict. So if you do the toast, please keep it short. Like really short. People get bored. Her eyes flashed toward the head table, where the microphones waited, and I felt the iPad list in my mind like a bruise. Keep Evelyn short. If she gets emotional, switch mic. I swallowed and held my smile steady. Of course, I said. I would not dream of making it about me. Chloe's shoulders relaxed, like she had just checked off a task. Megan patted my arm once, not affectionately, but like you pat a chair to make sure it is solid. Good, she said. We appreciate that. Then they swept away, leaving behind a trail of applause and admiring glances from strangers who did not know what it cost to look pleasant. I watched them disappear into the crowd, and I realized something with a calm that surprised me. They were not afraid of my anger. They were afraid of my dignity. They wanted me small, quiet, and grateful. And if I stayed that way, they would keep taking inch by inch until there was nothing left to take. The music swelled and softened in waves, but my thoughts stayed sharp, counting backward through years the way a woman counts stitches when she is trying not to cry. I watched Chloe glide from group to group, collecting compliments like tips in a jar, and I could not stop remembering the first time she learned that my wallet could be opened with a smile. She was 16 then, all knees and long hair, sitting on my kitchen stool while I flipped pancakes on a Sunday morning. Her mother Megan had dropped her off with a sigh and a story about being overwhelmed. Chloe had looked around my small, tidy house like it was a museum of old-fashioned patience. When she asked for a new laptop for school, she did not ask like a child who needed help. She asked like someone placing an order. I told her I would think about it, and she tilted her head, smiled wide, and said, "You always take care of us, Grandma." It was not gratitude. It was a reminder. A week later I bought the laptop. 2 years after that, I paid for test prep because college is expensive, and when she got accepted out of state, I covered the first semester deposit so she would not lose her spot. I did it because my late husband used to say family was a rope, and you held on even when it burned your hands. I did it because when my son, Chloe's father, struggled after his divorce, I told myself I was keeping the next generation steady. Then the requests became cleaner, more confident, dressed up as milestones. It is just a small fee. It is only a one-time thing. It would mean so much if you helped. Megan learned to present it as practicality. Chloe learned to present it as love. I did not notice the switch at first, the way her hugs got lighter, the way her calls came right on schedule with tuition, rent, or some sudden emergency that always had a price tag. When I asked about her classes, she would give me a few words and then pivot, quick and smooth, to what she needed. And I kept paying because I told myself it was temporary, because I told myself I was investing in her future, because I wanted to be the kind of grandmother whose name was spoken warmly at holidays. I even helped with this wedding more than anyone at my table could guess. I paid for the florist deposit when the first vendor fell through. I covered a last-minute alteration when Chloe decided her dress needed a better look. I wrote checks with steady hands and told myself I was buying peace. Sitting at table 19, hearing the service door hiss open behind me, I finally understood what I had really been buying. My own quiet role in their story, the one where I gave and smiled and stayed out of the spotlight. Chloe and Megan did not want me honored. They wanted me managed. And the hardest part was admitting that I had helped train them to believe they could. I tried to focus on the harmless things, the way the gold light from the chandeliers warmed the white tablecloths, the way the centerpieces smelled like fresh roses, the way champagne flutes caught tiny sparkles when people lifted them to toast. But my mind kept circling a pattern I could not unsee anymore. Chloe did not just love nice things, she loved what nice things said about her. The wedding was not only a celebration, it was a billboard. Every detail had to look expensive, even if it meant someone else quietly covered the difference. I had seen it in the months leading up to this day, in the way she would call with breathless excitement and then slip in a number like it was an afterthought. "Grandma, the venue requires an extra deposit because the guest count changed." "Grandma, the photographer charges more for the second shooter, but everyone does it now." Each time the request came wrapped in urgency, then tied with a ribbon of affection. She always ended with the same line, almost rehearsed. "You are the only one I can count on." Megan would follow up with her own version, the practical voice that made it seem irresponsible not to help. "You know how young people are," she would say. "If you do not step in, it will fall apart and Chloe will be devastated." and I would step in because I thought I was preventing heartbreak. Now, watching Chloe glide through the room, I understood that the heartbreak was being redirected toward me on purpose, parceled out in small, acceptable cuts so nobody would call it cruelty. I noticed how her attention stuck to the men in tailored suits, how her laughter rose higher when someone mentioned boats, vacation homes, or business deals. I noticed how she held Troy Dalton's arm as if he was proof of something, as if the ring on her finger was not only love but a receipt. Troy looked handsome, polite, and slightly overwhelmed, the way many grooms do, but there was something careful in his eyes when he watched Chloe. He did not look like a man drunk on romance. He looked like a man trying to keep up with expectations. When Troy's parents approached, Chloe's posture changed, her voice softened, her smile turned into something sweet and obedient. When she passed my table, that softness vanished, replaced by the sharp hostess smile that told me exactly where I ranked. The difference was not subtle. It was strategic. Megan, too, moved through the crowd like a manager, guiding, adjusting, correcting, never once checking on me unless it was to ensure I stayed in my assigned corner. And I knew deep down this was not about a seat at a wedding. It was about testing how much disrespect I would swallow without making a sound. They were not just spending money. They were spending my dignity because they believed I would always pay. By the time the salads arrived, my smile felt like a piece of clothing I had worn for too many hours, still fitted but no longer comfortable. Waiters moved between tables with practiced grace, setting down plates topped with baby greens, shaved parmesan, and thin slices of pear. The room buzzed with clinking glassware and the low hum of people who believed they belonged. I lifted my fork, took a polite bite, and reminded myself that hunger was not the only thing you could lose in a room like this. That was when Hannah Reed found me. Hannah was not family by blood, but she had been family in every way that mattered for nearly 20 years. She had been my neighbor before she was my friend, the kind of woman who brought soup without asking questions and told the truth without raising her voice. She slid into the empty chair beside me as if she had every right to be there, leaned close and said softly, "Do not look at me like you are fine. You are not fine." I let out a small breath that almost turned into a laugh. "I am fine," I said, "because that is what women my age say when we are not." Hannah's eyes flicked toward the head table, then back to me. "Evelyn," she said, "I just came from the hallway by the bridal suite. I was looking for the restroom. I heard Megan talking to the planner." My grip tightened around my fork. Hannah did not dramatize. If she sounded careful, it was because the truth required it. "They have papers," she continued, voice low enough that it blended into the music. "I heard Megan say, after the cake, we will have her sign it while everyone is busy. The planner asked if you would mind, and Megan said you would not, because you do not like making scenes." My throat went dry. "What papers?" I asked, still smiling toward the table like we were discussing the weather. Hannah shook her head. I did not see them clearly, but I heard words like authorization and gift letter. And Chloe said something about Grandma's promise like it was already settled. My heart gave a heavy thud. Not from fear but from recognition. A gift letter. An authorization. Those were not wedding words. Those were money words. Hannah reached for my hand under the tablecloth, her fingers warm against my knuckles. "Listen to me," she said. "Do not sign anything tonight. Not a napkin. Not a program. Nothing." I looked across the room and saw Megan laughing with a bridesmaid, her posture relaxed, as if she had already won. Chloe leaned into Troy, smiling sweetly, and I realized how confident they were that I would comply. They were counting on my manners like a lock they had the key to. I squeezed Hannah's hand once, just enough to let her know I understood. "Thank you," I said, and my voice stayed steady. Inside, something settled into place, quiet and clear. They had planned to use the crowd as cover. They had planned to use my love as leverage. And now, because Hannah cared enough to whisper the truth, I could finally choose what they never expected from me. Restraint with a backbone. After Hannah's warning, I did not rush. I did not storm toward the bridal suite or demand explanations. I simply adjusted my napkin, took a sip of water, and let my face stay calm. That was the first move, the one they never understood. I could be still without being weak. I excused myself from the table with the same gentle smile I had worn all afternoon and walked toward the lobby as if I needed fresh air. The hallway outside the ballroom was quieter, carpeted in soft gray, with framed landscape paintings and little pools of warm light from wall sconces. My heels made almost no sound. Near the front desk, the hotel manager stood speaking with a couple about valet tickets. His name tag read Mr. Alvarez, and when he glanced up at me, I gave a polite nod like any guest would. "Excuse me," I said softly. "I am Evelyn Parker, family of the bride. May I ask a quick question about privacy?" His posture straightened, professional and attentive. "Of course, ma'am," he said. I kept my voice low, measured. "If someone tries to bring documents to me tonight and pressures me to sign in the ballroom or nearby, I would like a quiet space to review anything properly. Is there a small office or lounge where I could sit, away from the crowd?" Mr. Alvarez looked at me for a moment, then nodded. "We can arrange that," he said. "There is a private meeting room down the hall. I can have someone escort you if needed." "Thank you," I replied. "Also," I added carefully, "if there are any misunderstandings later, I would appreciate it if any staff who witness a confrontation can simply note the time and location. I am not asking anyone to take sides. I just want things clear." His expression softened with understanding, the kind reserved for people who have been around too many weddings to believe every smile. "I understand," he said. "We will do what we can." I walked back toward the ballroom with my heart steadier than before. Halfway down the hall, I stopped near a small table with a vase of orchids and took out my phone. I did not call my family. I did not call Chloe. I called the one person my late husband always trusted when the world got slippery, our attorney Daniel Mercer. The call went to voicemail and I spoke quietly, choosing words like stepping stones. "Daniel, it is Evelyn. I am at Chloe's wedding. I have reason to believe someone may try to pressure me into signing financial documents tonight. Please call me as soon as you can. If you cannot, I will not sign anything until I speak to you." I ended the call, slid the phone back into my clutch and took one slow breath. Then I returned to table 19 as if nothing had happened, because the second move was just as important as the first. Let them think their plan is working right up until the moment it does not. The room shifted from dinner to celebration with the smoothness of a well-funded machine. Plates vanished, candles were relit, and the lights dimmed just enough to make every face look softer. Someone clinked a glass near the head table, and the band switched to a brighter tune that made people turn in their chairs and smile toward the dance floor. I sat upright at table 19, hands folded, as if I belonged exactly where I had been placed. Across the room, Chloe glowed in white satin, her bouquet now resting on a stand like a trophy. Troy stood beside her, straight-backed, polite, and slightly tense around the eyes. Megan floated behind them, scanning the room the way a hostess scans a checklist. Then a bridesmaid approached my table, a young woman with carefully curled hair and a bright expression that did not reach her eyes. "Miss Parker," she asked, "Chloe wants you for a quick family moment." Her tone made it sound like an honor. Her posture made it sound like an instruction. I rose calmly and followed her through the crowd, past tables where people laughed and toasted, past the photo booth where strangers posed with feather boas. We stopped near a side hallway, just outside the ballroom doors, where the music softened into a muffled thump. Chloe stood there with Megan at her shoulder, both of them too composed for a bride and mother of the bride in the middle of a reception. Chloe's smile was ready. Megan held a slim folder like it was nothing at all. "Grandma," Chloe said, voice sweet enough to fool anyone, "we just need one little thing from you, and then you can relax and enjoy the rest of the night." Megan opened the folder and slid out a sheet of paper. "It is simple," she said, the practical tone she used when she wanted me to feel unreasonable. "Troy and Chloe are finalizing some post-wedding details. The bank requires a gift letter to confirm that certain support is not a loan. It is standard." Chloe leaned closer, lowering her voice like we were sharing a secret. "It is only for optics," she said. "You know how this works. Everyone is watching. We cannot have anyone thinking we are starting our marriage in debt." I looked at the paper without taking it. The heading had official-looking language, the kind designed to intimidate people into compliance. And there it was, tucked into the middle like a hook. A dollar amount larger than anything I had agreed to recently, plus a line that mentioned ongoing support, as though it were already promised. My pulse stayed steady but my stomach went cold. Chloe's eyes flicked toward the ballroom, toward the microphones waiting for speeches. Also, she added, about the toast, the planner said it is best if we keep it like under 30 seconds. People get restless. Just say you are proud and that you helped make today possible. The last part landed like a slap dressed as a compliment. Megan gave a small laugh, as if I should find it charming. It will be wonderful, she said. A sweet moment. Then you sign this and we are all set. In that instant I understood the trap completely. They wanted my voice on the microphone and my signature on the paper, both used to certify their story in front of witnesses. And they had chosen this hallway, just out of sight, because they believed my manners would keep me quiet. I did not reach for the paper. I did not raise my voice. I simply looked from Chloe to Megan, and let the silence stretch long enough to make them uncomfortable. I see, I said at last, my tone mild, as if we were discussing seating charts instead of my financial life. Chloe's smile held, but her eyes sharpened. It is not a big deal, she insisted. It is literally one signature. Megan angled the page closer, as if proximity could create consent. Evelyn, do not be difficult, she murmured. This is the happiest day of her life. I nodded once, slow. Then let us keep it happy, I replied, and I slipped my clutch higher on my shoulder. I will not sign anything in a hallway. Megan's lips tightened. It is standard, she said again, louder this time, as if volume could turn a demand into a fact. Chloe leaned in, voice dropping into a coaxing whisper. Grandma, please. You do not want to embarrass me. I met her gaze, steady and calm. Chloe, I said. Embarrassment is not what I am protecting. I am protecting myself. Megan let out a small, impatient sigh. You are being dramatic, she said. It is paperwork. I gave a polite smile that did not reach my eyes. Then it can wait, I said. If it is legitimate, it can be reviewed properly. Chloe's cheeks flushed just slightly. Everyone is watching, she hissed, glancing toward the ballroom doors. They are waiting for you to say your little thank you. There it was again, the attempt to shrink me with a word. Little. I felt something settle in my chest, not anger but certainty. My words are not a receipt, I said softly. Megan's eyes narrowed. What are you talking about? She asked. I took a slow breath and chose honesty without spectacle. My late husband and I set up a family trust years ago, I said. Not because we were wealthy in a flashy way, but because we wanted order and protection. Education support, emergency help, certain gifts over time. It is not a blank check and it is not automatic. It is guided. Chloe blinked just once, the way someone does when the script changes. Megan's grip tightened on the folder. This is not the time, she snapped. Actually, I said, still calm. This is exactly the time, because you are asking me to sign language that I did not agree to. You are trying to turn my kindness into a contract. Chloe's voice rose, strained. Are you threatening me? I shook my head. No, I said. I am clarifying. Then my phone buzzed inside my clutch, a small vibration like a quiet knock on a locked door. I slid it out and saw the name. Daniel Mercer. I did not answer in front of them. I did not need to. The fact that my attorney was calling back was enough to steady my spine. I looked at Chloe and Megan, and my smile returned, gentle and unmovable. If you would like me to review anything, I said, we will do it privately with counsel and not tonight. Chloe's face shifted from sweetness to panic. Megan's eyes hardened, and I realized they were not upset because I said no. They were upset because I said no without trembling. When I stepped back into the ballroom, the band had started a lively song and the room was already turning toward the microphones like sunflowers to light. The wedding planner hovered near the sound system with the focused look of someone who could sense trouble without knowing its shape. Chloe and Megan followed a few steps. Behind me, their smiles pasted on, their eyes warning me not to deviate from the script. I walked past table 19 without sitting, straight toward the edge of the dance floor, where the microphone waited. I could feel the air change as people noticed me, the way a crowd grows quiet in layers. Someone at a nearby table whispered my name, as if I were suddenly important simply because I was standing. Chloe's hand brushed my elbow, light but controlling. Remember, she murmured, keep it short. I turned my head just enough to meet her eyes. I will, I said, and I meant it in a way she did not understand. I took the microphone gently, tested it with a soft breath, and then I looked out at the room. Faces blurred into a sea of expectation. Crystal glassware caught the light. The cake stood tall and perfect on its pedestal, iced and clean white like it had never been touched by human hands. I thought of my own hands, the ones that had written checks and held crying children and washed dishes after everyone went home. I smiled, not sweetly but steadily. "Good evening," I said. "My name is Evelyn Parker. I am Chloe's grandmother." A polite ripple of attention moved through the crowd. Chloe's shoulders eased, as if she believed I was about to praise her and disappear. "I want to say something simple," I continued. "Today is a beautiful day, and I truly hope Chloe and Troy build a life that is grounded in respect, honesty, and gratitude. Those three things will carry you farther than any centerpiece, any venue, any photograph, or any gift." I let the words sit, calm and clear, and for the first time that night I saw Troy's eyes lift fully to mine, curious, almost relieved. "I have loved my family for a long time," I said. "And I have learned that love is not proven by how much you give away. Love is proven by how you treat the people who show up for you." I did not name Chloe's mother. I did not mention the papers. I did not shame anyone. I simply spoke as if dignity were the only language worth using in public. "So tonight," I said, "I am giving the only gift that will matter for all the years after the music ends. I am giving a boundary." Chloe's smile froze just slightly, like frosting beginning to crack. "Any support I offer in the future will come through proper channels, with clarity and consent, and it will be guided by respect. That is how we protect relationships. That is how we protect family." The room stayed quiet, not shocked, but attentive in a way that made my skin feel warm. Then I softened my voice, because I was not there to punish an audience. "Chloe," I said, looking at her with the kind of tenderness I had once given freely, "I hope one day you understand that being loved is not the same as being entitled." I handed the microphone back to the planner, nodded once toward Troy, and stepped away before anyone could turn my words into a debate. As I walked out, I heard the band begin again, hesitant at first, then steady. In the lobby, Hannah was waiting. She did not ask what happened. She simply slipped her arm through mine, and together we stepped into the cool night air. The valet brought my car, and the sky above the hotel was wide and dark, sprinkled with stars that did not care about weddings or money. My phone buzzed once more, and this time it was a text from Troy. "Mrs. Parker, thank you. I needed to hear that." I sat behind the wheel, pearls cool against my collarbone, and for the first time in months I felt something like peace. I drove home knowing I had not ruined a wedding. I had rescued my own name.